Welcome back. We've just spent the first few segments learning how some Milwaukee area companies have been combating systemic racism and fostering change within their companies. Milwaukee's also home to one of the oldest community foundations in the world in the Greater Milwaukee Foundation. I recently sat down with them to learn more about how they've been rethinking the role of philanthropy in addressing racial equity and with their unique Milwaukee For All initiative and the educational partnerships they foster. Kathryn Dunn is the Senior Vice President and Chief Strategy Officer for the Greater Milwaukee Foundation. How are you, Kathryn?
Good morning. Thank you. I'm good. Good to be with you. I appreciate being here.
What has always stood out to me about the Greater Milwaukee Foundation is your mission to overcome racial divide and to build a better Milwaukee for everyone. If you would talk about some of the initiatives that you have in place to really make that mission a reality.
Sure. The Milwaukee For All vision really stems from both our strategic plan from 2020, but also from a commitment that our board made in 2016. They made a generational commitment to use all of the tools in our philanthropic toolbox to address racism and racial equity in the greater Milwaukee area. And that has really translated into us working very differently externally as well as internally. So our Milwaukee For All vision really requires us to reimagine how we think about philanthropy and what role philanthropy plays, to recenter community. So really walking alongside community residents and helping shape what our agenda is, and really valuing that lived voice experience and making sure they're part of our decision-making process. And then remaking systems, because as you said, there's a lot of systems that have been established that, whether intentional or the unintended consequence, the end result is that there's extreme disparities in access, experience, and outcomes for particularly people of color in the Milwaukee area. And so our focus really has been on how do we as a community foundation step in and play a role with those tools that we have. So philanthropists and our convening power, the ability to commission research, but more importantly, is really the ability to be that connector with the community residents. Those are the people we really serve, we're here to serve. And the donors, again, another constituent that we're here to serve. How do we bring them together and really think about the systems that are in place, really think about what role we can play in addressing and dismantling some of these systems and the structures that are in place.
1 in 3 Milwaukee children live in a community with equitable access to early childhood education, with Black and Latinx children disproportionately affected. How do you plan to improve early childhood education and ensure that every child in Milwaukee is actually prepared to enter school?
That's a big question because there's a lot of facets to that. So early childhood education is critically important to making sure that Milwaukee as a community advances, and particularly that our youngest children have the tools they need when they enter school to be successful. And as you stated, you've quoted some research that the foundation engaged in a few years ago. And part of that research was certainly gathering the data and the information, but also building out this table of people who come from the sector. So whether it was people who ran early childhood education centers, people who were part of the early childhood education program at MATC or UWM, state officials, other people within the sector, to really review the data, help analyze what it was telling us, and then help craft a shared strategy and priorities around how we can increase access to affordable, high quality care and address the systemic barriers that exist within the system that, range from not the business model and the public support that goes into the system, not adequately recognizing the profession as a profession, and not paying the people who are actually teaching our youngest children at the same level that the credentials that are required to be in that role would suggest that they're being paid. So we have our colleagues in Milwaukee Succeeds are part of the Early Childhood Education Coalition. It's a broad, diverse group of people from the sector who are advancing recommendations on how to increase pay and equity in pay in the field. They've been influencing and informing the utilization of the Recovery Act dollars that are coming into the state. And so they're helping direct them at specific strategies within the early childhood education field, both in Milwaukee as well as statewide. And then we've been working on a number of projects that are designed to increase the pipeline of teachers, including men of color, so that young children of color see men of color in front of them in early childhood education settings. And we're working on increasing just the general supply of quality. So we're doing that through building an early childhood education center within our new Thrive on King, which you're going to hear about in a little bit. And then also supporting providers with grants to help them enhance their physical facility space that will translate into increased or enhanced quality experience for the young children in their care. And then other strategies that are addressed at the providers who are in the field right now and supporting them with mental health resources. Things that we know through the pandemic and the impact of the pandemic are really impacting the field. So we have a couple of key strategies that we're advancing, both the Greater Milwaukee Foundation and partnership then with the Early Childhood Education Coalition, and many other actors who are in the space and interested in early childhood.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today and just making everyone aware of the outstanding work that's been done at the Greater Milwaukee Foundation.
It has been a pleasure. Thank you again for the invitation.
When we come back, we'll visit with community leader and president and CEO of the African American Alliance of Milwaukee, Walter Lanier. That is right after this.